Let's speak now to political analyst Mark Meirowitz, who joins us live from the US. Mark, why is the US not paying out more compensation?
Well, we don't know the answer to that question. This was the reason for the letter that was written by Senator Warren and Congressman Khanna. And also, this issue has been raised by a number of human rights organizations. They've paid out. The provision in the law says that they can pay out $3 million. They have an amount of money. They didn't pay out anything in 2020. And I think from 2015 to 2019, they paid out $2 million. But we don't know the answer to that. That's specifically why Senator Warren and Congressman Khanna wrote the letter asking to understand why is it that you haven't made any of these payments. Also, the number is being challenged, the number of casualties, that is to say 23 dead and 10 injured in the various military theaters, Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, etc. Questioning those numbers, a number of human rights organizations have said that the numbers are actually much larger, even 5 times larger. And Senator Warren and Congressman Khanna make that point and ask for clarification on that as well.
And would you say, Mark, that the wrong weapons were perhaps used in the fight against Daesh? And would you say that even enough care was taken to prevent civilian casualties?
Well, first of all, when the Biden administration came in, they tightened up the approval structure for drone attacks and commando raids and other military activities to try to minimize further any civilian casualties. But I just wanted to make the point that the letter from Senator Warren and Congressman Khanna really goes a bit over the top in the sense that they demand, in terms of the legislation that they're introducing, which has not been passed, but they want the Defense Department to already comply with it, is this to say they want a searchable database of every single report internally of the Department of Defense when it's investigating a civilian casualty, and they also want to be advised every time there's a civilian casualty or a human rights alleged violation. Well, I don't know how that will ever be effected in a structure like the Defense Department. That information clearly is classified. The United States is at war against terrorists in different military situations. So what they're asking for is very complicated. I would say that how you count the number of casualties is a matter of dispute, because the Defense Department wants to be able to say that it's reasonably suspected that there are casualties, and and Senator Warren and Congressman Khanna said that's there's too strict a rule. That's why the numbers are so small.
And okay, that seems complicated. And I'm thinking, imagine, a mother who lost her son in Mosul. How would they go about proving that it was a US missile, a US weapon that caused their son or daughter to die, and getting evidence and just going about that process to get compensation?
Well, the way it's done, apparently, is done through human rights organizations, NGOs, United Nations. That's how the DoD, Department of Defense, has been compiling this information, not just from internal data, but basically it depends on its internal data. If you think about it, though, the internal data is the Defense Department data. The human rights organizations have their own numbers. So there's a very tricky procedure here, and as you say in your chyron here, human rights criticized compensation system. That system is still problematic, and that's why Congress is trying to get into the act to try to clear it up and make it simpler to do what it is you've just described, is to allow legitimate victims, civilian victims, casualties of American military acts under the law. There was a law for this, to receive the compensation that they should be getting. There seems to be a disconnect here in how to quantify it and how to figure out who's a legitimate victim of a civilian casualty and so forth.
Do you have a sense that this will be, well, justice delayed is justice denied?
I'd say this kind of forget it. I don't think so. Maybe in the in-between, maybe there's a way to improve it. But I think that you're dealing with military activities in very complicated situations in failed states with terrorist activities, it's going to be very hard for Congress to demand the public disclosure of the data and the information. And regretfully, in wars, as we've known in the history of the world, it's the civilians who suffer, and they're the ones in the middle of it. But again, I would say, just to put it in perspective, that I don't know if I'm going to point my finger, I'm certainly going to point my finger at the terrorists and the other groups who are creating the mayhem and destruction for these poor people. But at the same time, I think we should enforce the law that says that the people who are legitimate victims should be compensated. And again, mystery, why no compensation? That's something I think Congress is going to press ahead to find out. And maybe there's a way to put that into effect and still do it for 2020.
I see. I look forward to following the outcome of this story and speaking to you again. Thank you so much, Mark Meirowitz.